You know, companies all over the world are pouring billions of dollars into training their employees. The goal, obviously, is to build a smarter, more capable workforce. But here's the thing. There's this massive disconnect between what's being spent and what's actually working. So today, we're going to dig in and unravel this thing we're calling the corporate training paradox. First, let's just put a number on this. The Association for Talent Development found that the average organization spends $1,280 per employee on training. I mean, that's a huge investment. Now, just think about that. Scale it across a company with 100 people or 1,000. The numbers get big fast. And that, right there, is the million-dollar question, or maybe the billion-dollar question. Is all that cash actually leading to real, lasting change? Or is it just vanishing into a black hole of boring workshops and online courses nobody ever finishes?
To really answer that, we have to look past the obvious. The price tag you see on a training program, that's not the real cost. It's not even close. The true cost of failure goes so much deeper.
Honestly, the best way to picture this is to think of an iceberg. All those costs you can see, the instructor's fees, the software subscriptions, the materials, that's just the tiny little tip floating above the water. The real danger, the massive bulk of the cost, is hiding right underneath the surface. So what's the biggest, scariest part of that hidden iceberg? It's productivity loss. I mean, every single hour an employee is sitting in a training session, that's an hour they are not doing their actual job. And don't forget, you also have to add in the time their manager spends planning the training, supervising it, and following up. It all adds up like crazy.
And here's the thing, you can actually calculate this for yourself. TechSmith has this simple but really powerful formula. Just take an employee's hourly rate, multiply that by how long the training is, and then add in the cost of their supervisor's time. A lot of the time, that number absolutely dwarfs the direct cost of the training itself. But we're not just talking about lost hours. When something like compliance training fails, the risks are just enormous. We're talking about huge regulatory fines from groups like OSHA, we're talking about failing audits for standards like ISO, and just massive legal liability. If you can't prove your team was trained properly, you're in a really tough spot. Okay, so if the costs and the risks are this high, why do so many training programs still fall flat? Let's really diagnose what's going wrong with the system. Okay, this statistic right here is pretty staggering. Almost half, 49% of all employees say they don't really get the material in their compliance training. So think about that. Despite all the time and money being spent, the main message is completely lost on basically 1 out of every 2 people. This isn't just a broken system, it's a system that's on the verge of total failure.
So, let's dive into the reasons why. Reason number 1, a total lack of alignment. Way too often, training is off in its own little world, completely disconnected from what the company is actually trying to achieve. And look, if the training doesn't help an employee do their actual job better, they're going to see it as irrelevant, and they'd be right.
The second huge problem is what you might call the one-and-done trap. We treat training like this single event. You go to the workshop, you check the box, and you're done. But that totally ignores how our brains actually learn. We forget things incredibly quickly without practice and reinforcement. You just can't build a real skill in a single day.
And reason number 3, it's just a massive disruption. Traditional training yanks your most important people away from their actual work. This creates a huge headache and a backlog, and it can even make people resent the training, especially when they've got deadlines piling up.
And finally, there's a big perception problem. Instead of feeling like an opportunity or an investment, training can sometimes feel like, well, a punishment, like you're being called out for not being good enough. And as soon as an employee feels that way, any chance of them actually engaging in learning is pretty much gone.
So, if the old model is so fundamentally broken, what's the answer? Well, it requires a huge shift in how we think about this, moving away from these isolated training events and toward building a culture where learning is continuous.
And when you put them side by side, the difference is just stark. On the left, you have the old way. It's a one-time event, it's one size fits all, and it disrupts everything. The new paradigm on the right, it's a continuous process. It's personalized, it's on demand, and it's built right into the way we actually work. It's a whole new philosophy.
So, what's making this new way of thinking even possible? Well, in a word, technology. AI can now create customized learning paths for every single person. Things like gamification can make learning, well, actually fun and engaging. And data analytics can finally show us what's working and what isn't. This is how you scale real learning for everybody. Okay, so we get the new paradigm. But how do you actually build it? Let's shift gears from the big ideas to the practical tools and strategies you can start using right away.
First up, you have to pick the right format for the right reason. Look, instructor-led training can still be amazing for complex soft skills, but it's expensive and it's hard to scale. Video, on the other hand, is super engaging and you can reuse it, but you've got to keep it up to date. And then a blended approach can give you the best of both worlds, but it takes some serious coordination. The key is there's no single right answer. It's about using the right tool for the job.
Now here's a huge strategy in this new world: microlearning. Instead of these long, painful, multi-hour workshops, you break the content down into these short, bite-sized 5 to 10-minute chunks. This respects people's time, it fits right into their daily workflow, and it makes it so much easier to remember the information. Someone can learn a new skill literally moments before they need to use it.
And automation is really the glue that holds all this together. The process is actually pretty straightforward. First, you identify the repetitive stuff, like onboarding or compliance training. Then you pick a good learning management system, an LMS, to automate everything from delivering the content to sending reminders. And finally, you automate the reporting so you can actually track progress and prove that you're getting a return on your investment.
You know, this whole thing isn't just about making training a little bit better. It's about preparing our entire workforce for a future that's going to be fundamentally different. A future where the single most important skill is going to be the ability to learn new skills.
And this quote from the Harvard Business Review, it just says it all. In an economy that's constantly changing, the most valuable asset anyone can have is learnability, that hunger and that ability to constantly adapt. So really effective training doesn't just teach a single skill, it builds that meta skill of learning itself. So I'll leave you with this one question to really think about. Take a hard look at how your organization approaches employee development. Is it stuck in the past? A disruptive, one-size-fits-all event that people dread? Or is it an integrated, continuous engine for building the kind of curious, adaptable, constantly learning workforce that the future is going to demand?